Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Dychronic, your host here on this Destiny 2 video, and today we're going to be showing you where the Xur's inventory random rolls out my recommendation for January 3rd, 2020. At this point, I should just say 2020, because 2020 seems like a lot. Come to think of it, I think for the rest of my life, I am now going to be calling the year 20-something. 2021, 2030, 2035. No longer will I be able to say 2000-something and feel like it's the right number. That's actually a significant change. It's the 90s, baby. That confuses me. But anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at the Xur. First and foremost, he can be found on his regular location in Isle. So just head over to the Giant Scar, make your way all the way over here into this little cave section, and you can find him in his regular location. This is going to be a high overview of everything that he does have available, and right now I'm going to say Lord of Wolves looks very attractive. Let's go ahead and get started with the weapon today. The Lord of Wolves shotgun came out with Forsaken as a kind of averaging weapon, then got a series of buffs that made it an incredible weapon for both PvE and PvP, then got a series of nerfs that kind of puts it at above average and is still very good. Its main perk, called Shrapnel Launcher, basically fires a powerful short-range burst of solar damage. So instead of being like a shotgun, it acts more like a 5-burst pulse rifle that's more close range. The other perk, the main perk that everybody loves, Release the Wolves. Hold down the reload button to swap to a longer, more powerful burst. Now, switching from a 5-shot burst to a 10-shot burst, each one of those shots actually doing more damage, and you're shooting more shots per burst, which means that it does a significant amount of more DPS. Now, why is this weapon really good? It just does incredible DPS, and it does it at a pretty impressive amounts of range. Now, if you want to know exactly what kind of DPS it does, check out one of my spreadsheets on this. I have a full DPS calculation for PvE damage, and this weapon actually is pretty high up on the list. I definitely think top 7. I can't remember exactly where it is. Oh, and apparently it has a catalyst, which I have yet to complete because I forgot it has a catalyst. Moving on to the Hunter exotic, we have the Stompies. Its main perk, called Hydraulic Boosters, increases sprint speed and slide distance and improves all of the jumps that the Hunter has. Now, improved jump means that it jumps faster and higher with every single jump. So if you're trying to get to higher locations or farther locations, these are going to be your general PvE jump boots, and in PvP, it also is really nice to be able to just absolutely disappear from enemies. If you're using high jump, the one you only get one jump in midair, you absolutely just fly up in the air at extreme speeds, and it's very disorienting for enemies in PvP. So this is definitely going to be a very powerful PvP exotic. I think I have it like as number 2 or 3 in my PvPs for Hunter. As far as the roles going, have a primary in mobility is a perfect synergy with his exotic, because mobility actually increases your maximum jump height and movement speed, which is exactly what this exotic is about. A secondary discipline is nice to have, although I would have liked to see it in recovery, because recovery is a very powerful PvP and PvE perk. So I would say an above average role, great synergy for a very above average exotic. And apparently it also has an ornament that makes it look like this. Moving on to the Titan exotic, we have the Dune Marchers. Its main perk, called Linear Actuators, increases the sprint speed, so it's basically your sprint boots, and while you sprint, you build up a static charge, and after you melee attack an enemy, that charge will chain damage to nearby enemies. So it's all about like running fast, doing melee damage, and in my opinion, that's not really enough to make this exotic warranted, because from my tests, admittedly from a long time ago, the Lion's Rampant is actually a faster mobility exotic. So if you want to move fast, use Lion's Rampant. Lion's Rampart more than you use Dune Marchers. And if you want melee damage, there's a lot of other options like Worm God Caress, Synthoceps, many other options if you're looking for melee stuff. As far as the roles go, having a primary and secondary in mobility and strength is a good synergy for this exotic, but overall, neither one of these particular stats are useful in many things. So I would say above average role, specifically synergizing with his exotic for kind of averaging exotic, perhaps even below average, just because Lion's Rampart is just so much better. Oh, and also it has an ornament and it makes it look red and has a lot more shiny bright lights, and I do like that. And finally, for the Warlock exotic, we have Sanguine Alchemy. In my opinion, somewhat of an underrated exotic, something that not a lot of people, myself included, have used very much at all. Came out with Warmind. Its main perk, Heightened Senses. While standing in a rift, grants you and your allies heightened senses, allowing you to retain your radar while aiming down sights, and additionally, nearby powerful enemies are visually marked and can be tracked without line of sight. Now, again, I haven't used this much. I don't know what powerful enemies applies to in PvP, but if it applies to any guardian enemy near you in PvP, that's something that could be very powerful. Using your wells, using your rifts, and just getting those very, very quickly, you could basically have a one-eyed mask in your rift, which could be very powerful for your allies. That being said, I have no idea because I never use this thing. As far as the roles go, having a primary in mobility is not really something useful. Perhaps PvP mobility is useful. Secondary intellect is always nice to have, but it's not a synergy with the exotic. I would say the synergy with this particular exotic would be more recovery resilience because you're standing in one place and your rift recharge is based on your recovery. So having those two would be a better synergy with this exotic. So I would say below average roll for maybe a below average exotic. Outside of that, make sure you're picking up your 5 of Swords for higher scoring Nightfalls, picking up your Invitation of the Nine for some powerful gear and lore, and then finally an exotic engram, which is no longer called a Fated engram or Isochronal engram. It's just exotic engram because all exotic engrams will now drop any world drops you have from year 1, 2, and 3 that you do not have, which is something that's very, very powerful, and I highly recommend you pick some of those up if you're still missing some exotic. But anyways, that's gonna be pretty much it for the Xur today. Hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions, concerns, tips, tricks, and vendettas. Let me know because I'd like to know if I have any rivals out there. But that's it. My name's Dychronic, and I will see you guys on the next one.